Hello and welcome to my channel. We're in a little bit of an awkward angle right now. Benson is downstairs streaming and of course using my ring light. But I did still want to film a little bit today. I don't know why, but I was just hit with like the last couple days I've just been hit with like the urge to film something, even though I haven't really been getting videos out, so like of course it makes sense. But today we are gonna film, or we are going to talk about some books. If you don't know, March is Women's History Month, so I thought it would be fun to put together a couple of books, or a list of a couple of books that have some of my favorite female characters, or some strong female characters in certain cases. I do have a little bit of a list. I'm going to start off with a couple books that I actually don't have physical copies of, but hopefully plan to do so in the near future. The first book I want to talk about is called The Three Mothers. It is a non-fiction book that follow, obviously, like, this isn't fictional, like these aren't like characters, they're real people. It's a non-fiction book following the lives of the mothers of Martin Luther King Jr., James Baldwin, and Malcolm X, and kind of their stories with the civil rights movement before their sons were born. And I thought this was a really strong book. I read it and I got through it so quickly. I listened to it on audio, which I definitely think is the way to go. And I keep every time I go to Barnes & Noble, I keep trying to look for a physical edition, and for some reason I can never find it. But I was really interested in this book, and I really think it's such an amazing take on something you don't really think of, because when you hear of people like Martin Luther King Jr., you don't really think about the people that came before him, his parents. Same thing with the other two. Obviously you don't really think of their mothers and their stories. So I think this is a really interesting book, a really interesting perspective, and definitely something I read last year for Women's History Month. So I think it's such an important read, and a book that not enough people talk about on BookTube, or I think in general. Second book I want to talk about that I don't actually have a physical copy of is the Hamster Princess series. This follows Harriet the hamster, who doesn't want to be a princess. She lives in a world that is very magical and full of fairy tales, and she does not want to be a princess. She wants to be the one saving princesses. So she goes out on all these different adventures and finds a way to be the hero. And I love this. I've been reading all of the books on ebook. Finally had to bite the bullet and buy the ebook from the Kindle shop the other day. The fourth book from the Kindle shop the other day, because my library no longer doesn't carry the rest of the series, and if they do have the series, it's in audio. And if you know anything about this series, you know it has illustrations mixed in with it, and the illustrations usually are also part of the dialogue. So like, I'm sure if they turn it into audiobooks, obviously they found a way to get past that, but I like looking at the illustrations while I'm reading. So yeah, but I really like her. She's such a strong character, and I feel like you don't see it very often, where our main character doesn't want to be the princess. She wants to be the one to do the saving, and she wants to live outside of that stereotype. So I think it's really funny. It's really cute. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite middle grades, one of my favorite series, or one of my favorite middle grade and comfort series. So I really enjoy this. Cannot wait to keep reading, continue on, and I just might either end up having to buy the rest of the books physically, or just buy them on my Kindle. Another one of my favorite female characters is Anne from Anne of Green Gable. I said it right that time. I keep putting the in front of Green Gables, and it's not Anne of the Green Gables, it's just Anne of Green Gables. But Anne is such a refreshing character we follow. So this book follows an orphan named Anne who is mistaken is accidentally taken to the Green Gables because they think she's a boy. When she gets there, they discover that she is indeed not a boy, but they quickly end up falling in love with her spirit and her actions. And I was right there with them, absolutely falling in love with Anne. She's such a ray of sunshine who is constantly asking questions and ending up in hilarious situations. And this was a book I think I mentioned before that I wasn't actually planning on picking up at any point, but then I saw these editions and absolutely fell in love with these editions. So of course I had to get it, so I had to read it, and I'm so glad that I did, and I cannot wait to continue on with the rest of the series because Anne is just a ray of sunshine and an absolute breath of fresh air, and getting to know her and fall in love with her and all these other characters was just a great time. The next one is the definition of a strong female character, if I have ever heard of one. But that is Goldilocks from the Land of Stories series. Without going too far into spoilers, Goldilocks becomes a very essential character for Alex and Connor, and she becomes very much like family. So getting to read her story from before she was introduced in the Land of Stories was really fun and interesting. And in this book, she has to save her home from possible destruction. So getting to follow her story and seeing all the little Easter eggs that come to play later on in the books was really fun and really interesting. But Goldilocks herself is very much the person, very much such a strong female lead. She knows what she has to do, even if it might cost her relationships or it might cost her life. She's a very, very prominent and very strong main character. I'm going to talk about this one first, because even though this isn't technically from the books, she's not my favorite character, but from the TV show she is. So I haven't read her books, but I have watched the TV show. So this is like an honorable mention, I guess. But that is Kyoshi from Rise of the Kyoshi or Avatar: The Last Airbender series. Kyoshi is such a strong female lead, and if you've watched the TV show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I have not ventured into the books yet, but I really, really want to, because just seeing what we saw from her in the TV show just makes you want more, and I'm kind of sad that we didn't get to see more from her actually in the TV show. But she's such a strong female lead that will do what she absolutely needs to do to get things done, and just to get into a position where that she feels is right. So she's to me, that's a very, very strong female character, female lead, who will kick ass if she needs to without asking questions. Sticking with the fantasy theme, another one of my favorite characters of all time is Omari from Omari and the Night Brothers. Now this book follows Omari, whose brother has recently gone missing, and she discovers that there's a supernatural world that might have something to do with it. Of course, she takes it upon herself to try and save her brother, because she is not going to stand in the background and let something bad happen to him when she thinks that she might be able to save him, which is one of the reasons that she has become one of my favorite characters, because she knows what's at stake, and why I consider her a strong female character, I should say. She knows what is at stake, and she is ready to do whatever she needs to do to protect her family, to save her brother. And she's trying to navigate this world by herself, while trying to figure out what happened to her brother and how she can save him or figure out where he is. Just all these little things. She is such a strong and very powerful character when you get further into the book and realize just how much she's going through while she's trying to be selfless and trying to save someone that she deeply cares about, while also going through emotional damage, I guess, emotional trauma, because she's learning a lot about herself while learning a lot about her brother and the world as she knows it. It's not exactly the way she pictured it in her head. So she's definitely a character that I admire very, very much, a character that I fell deeply in love while reading this book. And the second book is coming out very soon, so I cannot wait to read more from her and be able to words are hard, and be able to see the journeys that she ventures forward as she's still discovering herself and still discovering the world around her, I guess. Does that make sense? That's yeah, words, I guess. Now I guess we can venture away from fantasy for a little bit and talk about some romance read. I think the rest of the books on this list are romance, but the first one I want to talk about is Georgie from Fix Her Up. This book follows Georgie, who has always been in love with her brother's best friend, and she feels like she's not being taken seriously by her family, and he obviously needs to, and he being a baseball player that had a little bit of a situation a while back, and he's just seen as a playboy and not really like a family friendly person. She needs to be she thinks she needs to be taken more seriously, and he needs help maintaining like a family style reputation. So they agree to fake date, and the story kind of goes from there. So the reason that Georgie is on this list is because she is unapologetically herself. Now she does not want to go into the family business. All of the family works in like a building houses situation, if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a long time since I've read this. But she doesn't want to do that. She went to clown college, and she wants to be an entertainer. So we get to see her stand up for that and stand up for herself, while continuously being treated like a child that she knows she's not. She just happens to know what she likes, even though it's not necessarily the typical thing to do. She doesn't care. This is what she wants to do with her life. She wants to go into party planning type of situation. She wants to party entertaining type of situation. And really all she wants is for her family and friends to understand that and stop treating her like a child because of her choices. And I just think that's like one of the most amazing things ever, and getting to see her go through that journey and really like hone in and like fully accept herself is such a power move, and I love it, and I think we could all aspire to be a little more like Georgie. Now the next 3 books I am going to talk about a little bit of each separately, but they are all from the same series, and they're some of my favorite some of my favorite books of all time, and definitely one of my favorite series of all time, but that is the Brown Sisters trilogy. But that is the Brown Sisters trilogy, which I have loved and adored so much. I just finally read Act Your Age, Eve Brown, and I'm so sad it's over. But the 3 of these ladies all by themselves are just such powerful women, and we get to see the hardships that they have gone through separately, and the way that they kind of overcome it, even though it's not like they don't necessarily overcome their struggles. We get to see them work through and work on themselves as the book goes on, and like we know they're still working on themselves afterwards, which I think is a very strong quality, admitting that you need help and being willing to get that help. So like I said, I'm going to talk about these a little bit individually, but yeah, I think I just said a lot. So obviously the first in the series is Get a Life, Chloe Brown. Chloe struggles from fibromyalgia, and that in itself is such a hard thing to go through. Obviously, I don't know myself, so I can't imagine like how hard it is to go through. But just knowing what I know and reading this book has helped me understand just how hard it is to go through. And then we kind of learn more about her and what she has lost because of her condition, and how that really affects her. Without going into spoilers, she handles this in a very raw, rough way, and it affects her. So to see her, to see how she handles it, and to see how it affects her and her relationships with Red and her family and her past relationships, it definitely hits, and it makes you admire her very, very, very much. Now we can talk about Dani Brown, who is the middle, and she, in herself, obviously she's the middle child. Anybody who's the middle sibling can kind of understand, but she has locked herself up after having a bad end to her last relationship, so she doesn't really want to move forward with any kind of non-sexual relationship or non-sexual experience. And then, of course, Zaf walks in, and things might change, and we get to see that internal struggle, the internal back and forth, and her realizing that she may be in love with this guy even though she has sworn off love. And that's something that's really hard to do, obviously. It didn't work out for me very well, but I was in a similar situation when my last relationship ended. So getting to see her like internal back and forth and how she handles it, and we can kind of see her anxiety as she's facing this situation, the constant back and forths of, should I pursue this relationship, should I not? And yeah, it's just a really tough thing, especially because she also considered, so not only is she considering the fact that she had a past relationship that ended badly, but she also is dealing with the fact that no one's going to want to be in a relationship where the other person is a workaholic, and Dani acknowledges that she's a workaholic, and not everybody likes that. She doesn't always have time for lunch dates, she doesn't always go to bed at the right time. So we follow her. She thinks she's just too much of a mess to fully be loved and accept love from other people. And lastly, Act Your Age, Eve Brown. This was by far my favorite one of the series, and I knew Eve was going to be my favorite sister. I think I relate the most to her, being the youngest child, being the one that is constantly being compared to other people in your life. It's really hard, and that's exactly what Eve is going through, being compared to her sisters, and constantly feeling like she's a disappointment. And you can see that being in that situation definitely gives her anxiety, and really, really hurts her. So we kind of get to see her deal with that through this book, and it's, oh god, it was definitely a hard read for me, because getting to see her like branch out of her shell while falling in love with this guy, and falling in love with herself, and like taking the self-acceptance, like learning self-acceptance, and just being unapologetically herself. And I think we've seen, if you've read the last two books, you also know that she doesn't always get words right in her head. So there'll be times where she says a word and her sisters will correct her, and we learn that's something that really bothers, like, not too much of a spoiler, but that's something that really bothers her and like gets to her, and she just learns to accept herself as she is and start taking no shit. And I absolutely love this so much, and I cannot wait to reread this again and again, because I've read the other 2 books 3 times each, so now I have to catch up the same with this one. But I'm so sad. I definitely wish there was more. So those are all of the books that I want to talk about today. All of my favorite female leads, at least for now. Obviously, I will be reading more, so hopefully I will expand a little bit more of a collection by the time next March comes around. But thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more from me, hopefully in a little bit of a better setup next time once I get my ring light back from Benson, whose links will also be down in the description box below if you would like to follow more from him, as well as links to my social media if you want to hear any more updates from me. With that being said, once again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all, and have a great day.